Hey guys, it's Simon with toughtrader.com. Wanted to uh, go through and do a review really for the members in the room. I'm going to share it with the general public, but guys, this is really aimed towards people who are in the room day in, day out. So what I want to show is Friday, how the support resistance zones and the algo could have worked together to give great setups all the way around. So part of the reason for doing this, I'm pretty straightforward. I didn't trade great this week, right? So it's funny how little things can interfere, everything from family to lack of sleep to outside stresses in the market. And really, I just didn't put together a great week. I didn't have a bad week, but I didn't have a good week either. It was okay. And so whenever that happens, I really want to work extra hard on those weekends and really look at how I would have done it perfectly. So what this exercise is a review of the zones, right? And then a look at the algo and how that would have helped us make better trading decisions through the course of the day. So before we get started, just really quick here, past performance is not indicative of future results. This is for educational purposes only, right? What else was I going to say? There's a lot of risk in day trading. It's the hardest time frame to trade on. Please, please, please have a trade plan. If you're losing money, stop. Go back to paper trading or cut your trade size. Whatever's appropriate relative to the capital that you have, but don't blow up. It's not worth it, guys. It just isn't. You can make a lot of money once you figure out how order flow works, how support resistance works, how profiles work, and that would be my strongest suggestion. So here we go into it right now. Let's jump in. So number one on the day, what we had, so what the chart looked like without going into the profile right now. I'm going to spread this out. Okay, I'm gonna lay this out here real quick so everyone can see it. This was prior day's high. Oh, didn't mean to mark that off. Okay, so the purple dotted line on top, prior day's high, and prior day's high and value area high, right? This was down here. The dotted line on bottom is value area low. The solid purple line begins an anomaly or support resistance area on the chart. The yellow zone was my primary support resistance on the day, with buyers being in control above, sellers below, but it was right in the middle of balance. So the first thing I want to remind everyone when we start, when we're inside prior day's balance, which are these two dashed purple lines are demarking on the chart, right? What I expect is the PA to go up and down, back and forth like this until we're either above that area or below that area. So why is that important? That's important because that gives me context on the day. I know it's going to be harder to get straightaway fast extensions. I expect chop, right? So what I can do is calibrate my emotions when I'm in that area to know, hey, it's going to be choppy. Secondly, the overall objective is to trade outside of the exception of the open, trade away from VWAP, right? Trade away from VWAP and or stay away from VWAP and use it as a target up and a target down, because we know it'll be extra choppy for the most part on VWAP except on trend days, right? Next, so VWAP inside value, really, really tough, right? Want to remind everyone of that. So next, right, to give you an idea of what this looked like coming in overnight, let's go ahead and change this real quick to show the overnight session coming into the day. It'll be up here in just one sec. So we think. Okay, there we go. So this is what it looked like coming in at 8:30 in the morning. That's 8:30 right there. And you can see we pretty much opened up right on top of the overnight volume point of control, right? So support was below that volume point of control. And we can see from a quick look, this is important, right? You can see from a quick look the way the market handled the day. The basic premise of the Tough Trader Rim is if you take the first touch, and it has been for years, first touch of the zone, target 2 points, move your stop to break even, and get the trailers. So first touch, mission successful. First touch in, mission successful, right? And now you can see first touch from underneath, right? And you were able to get, I'm going to stretch this out so everyone can see it. First touch from 26.6750, you were able to get all the way back down to to 26.65.50. You had to hit it right on the button here, right? But you were able to get back to 26.65.50 before it continued back up. And again, you expect it to be choppy inside prior day's value. I'm going to keep stressing that because that has to be the expectation for the day, right? So first touch from both sides worked beautifully for the day, right? We've established that. Now, the question becomes, how could we use our algo to get more, what's the word I want to use here? More confidence in our entries. Now I'm going to go through and show that really quick. So let's jump over. And in the room, we're introducing a new leg to the algo, which is going to look like this right here. Okay, and these are going to tell us two different pieces of information. So how am I going to demonstrate this? This is how I'm going to demonstrate this. I'm going to, and again, this is for guys in the room, I'm going to attach this chart window. Let's go to chart, attach chart. And now we're going to go window, and we are going to go to tile vertically. There we go. Now we're going to have all three charts. We're going to scoot this chart over here. We're going to move this chart in the middle, and we're going to make this chart small, but we'll have all our zones in it. So let's scoot this chart in. There we go. So we'll get the whole day. There we are. So now we have from the open the chart there, and now we're going to have this chart here, and they're all showing different pictures of the same idea. Okay, and we're going to go to the open over here. Scoot over to 8:30 in the morning. So remember, when I'm looking at the chart here at 8:30, I have two areas that I am targeting on this chart. Okay, I am targeting. I'm either going to target. So remember, we are opening. Let's make sure we have it on the right day. That is not the right day. Let's get this over. There we go. 27. Okay, so from out of the get-go, we are targeting, right? We're opening up here just underneath value. This is my first support area, right? So when I look over here, sorry for taking so long to set everything up. I'm going to drag it over, and you will see as we are approaching. Okay, notice. So this is always interesting to me. See how they front run? This is the zone, right? Notice we've come off of, this is 8:35. Notice that we've come down, and if you look at the algo, you look like, well, wow, look, that looks like they're going to try and reverse it right here. So remember the order for the algo, guys. Algo goes trade location, number one, algo number two, and then the various algo setups that we have within there, right? So watch as we're progressing to the right. So notice now we hit it. There's a 262 negative delta, still early in the morning to be able to tell. But what's most interesting there is what you'll see here is they hit it with a 1062 by 99 on the bottom. What you'll see is we got 963, almost 1,000 printed on the low. That's pretty interesting to me. 1,000 is usually my threshold, but this is a big print here at the low. If you'll look at the number, so I'm going to expand this. The point of this version of the algo here is to show us what we're looking at when we're coming into the low. And what you'll see is when they're hitting as they're hitting the bids at the bottom, right? You'll see this is the single biggest print coming into that number, that 963 right now. I want that, and I expect that coming into a zone. Okay, so we already know this is an important area, and they're going to hit that with volume when they come in. And now I'm looking for a reason to take that trade long. So I have two choices. I can either just simply take the top of the zone and put a stop approximately 2 points behind, right? That's what's appropriate for me. And look for a rebound. And what am I going to target? Well, with Amazon's earnings, everyone was pretty bullish. I would have probably been targeting or looking for the high of the day. I actually took this trade in NQ instead of ES, but same location. I am targeting the high here, right? So what happens on the next bar? I want to show you this. See that 16 right there at the bottom? Very interesting. See how we hit by 16 by 0? It gets highlighted on the algo here to the left, and you can see what that tells me is there's very little interest, right? Very little interest at the lows we come in, and that bar comes into the zone, and closes up at the high. I have a lot of interest in that long now. The only problem for me is this is prior to 9 a.m. and I'm not trading prior to 9 a.m. I burned the first half hour for lots of good reasons, but mostly to just kind of let me warm up on the day. And this is not a perfect reversal bar from this perspective, but it's a great location and when you hit it with a big size, follow it by a tiny size, that would be weird, right? You'd expect people to follow right through and hit it big. So watch how the market responds. See how they come back in it again with a 210, right? They're going to come back again. So notice we get the positive response out, right? They backside test this bar once again. And now where do they push? Right back up to the high of the day. Now, what's interesting, see how we tag right into the high? See this bar right here? Guys, this is very interesting. This really doesn't show anything to us on this bar, but this bar tells me a lot. Okay, so it tells me two things. This bar also told me a lot right here, but this one was even more interesting. We hit the high of the day, right? We hit value area high. They attempt to close above, and then they close it on the low. What would have made this bar perfect is if they had hit it with only two, that they would have lifted the offers at the very top and closed it at the low. But what you're going to see there is they immediately come down and roll us all the way back. Now remember when we're rolling back here, right, on this chart, I'm going to open this up a bit, right? So this is what we've done so far on this chart. We've tagged in the first time, we've backside tested the high, and we've come back into the zone. Now remember what your highest odds rules are for the zone. First touch is the highest odds, and that's what we're generally focused on in the room. So you'll see when they come back in the second time, we're going to progress that forward. Right, so realize we've pushed up. Now we're pushing back in for the second time, right? I'm going to shrink this down a little bit so you can see that. Usually I just have these on two separate screens. I'm trying to show at the same time so you can see here. We've come in, we've come out, and we've come right back. Now, notice the difference this time. Look when we come in over here. See how there's no small numbers at the bottom? And notice the deltas on the downside are actually increasing, right? Versus what we got before where they tagged in and closed out almost immediately. No one's trying to reverse this trade here, right? They try to reverse it right here, but again, look at the delta. It's negative 109. They're trying to lift. There's just nothing there, right? There's just nothing there. It's the second time in, second time underneath VWAP, right? And if you look at this chart from this point, what you would say is, well, we've tested value area high. We came back up for a second break, failure to break out to the upside, which you would have thought, or at least I should have thought in real time, like, hey, they couldn't break the high. We're probably going to go test value area low, right? And now you'll see we try to establish over one more time. Actually, I guess they gave it one more push out of there. And now we finally come back in again. And you're going to see they finally roll it over right over here. So I apologize. I thought we only had two tests, but obviously we had three tests there, right? It doesn't look very big on a 5-minute chart. I'm going to expand it out. And you can see it looks like there's a lot of movement in the algo bars, but on a 5-minute chart, which you're looking at here, I want to spread this out. Really what you can see to this point, remember I was drawing in the morning where I said, what do I expect? A lot of this type of price action where we're just chopping back and forth, but we're not going anywhere. And that's exactly what we're getting. That's why it's important to keep your eye on the 5-minute chart, even when you're working off the algo, so you know where you're at. And again, I'm going to pound it into everybody. Keep track of the first touch of key locations. Very, very important, right? So now if you watch as we scroll to the right, we finally break. So it's one test, two tests, right? And you can see the second time we came up right here, this is actually a pretty nice bar right there. You can see we got tagged with the sell imbalance right at the low. There was no interest at top. Had this been a negative 1,000 delta, that would have made it perfect. But again, it's 8:46 in the morning, right? And you can see they had one more push right up. All these bars looked really nice through here for a push down. Now we're going to push all the way down to the low, which is what I want to show you. Here we go. Now, this is interesting, guys. See this at negative 1124, where this bar, where we closed. Had this bar closed at the high, this would have been an ideal long. It's the opposite of the high odds trade that I just highlighted that'll show up here in a minute on Friday afternoon. I get a huge print on the bottom, and if they could have had this huge print on the bottom and then closed up, that would have been your highest odds setup going. So watch how they do this. They're trying to lift against that, and they do lift up. They do finally panic. They do lift up a little bit, but you also got to think about something else. This is value area low, and this is an anomaly right in here. Okay, this area right here is an anomaly. So see how we're getting potential reversal signals off the algo? And you've got to think to yourself, what's more important? I don't want to take a trade outside of location. So I want to stress this. Coming back into Friday, I did not take a long down here, but and again, I wanted to correct, this is 9:40 in the morning, right? This is where I want to be long. I'm looking for an excuse, right? Now watch the series of bars as we come in. We lift, right? Push in. Now you see this 1904 this time, 1904 right on the bottom. Look at the size of the delta here. So I want to show you the difference here. See when we push down the first time, I'm going to look at this right here. It's this number right here, and this number right here. This one right here, this one right here. See the delta is 623, 981. That's pretty good, okay? But there's no buy and balance on top. See that? Now let's go through to the right a little bit. Now look when we come in the second time. Now we're in the zone, right? And in the zone, I expect them to hit it with a lot of volume. And that's exactly what they did. This is telling me, look at my 3 stack. This is telling me I have stacked deltas, and I get 3 in a row, right? Guys in the room, y'all know what this means, right? When we get 3 in a row, you are starting to gear up to look for a reversal. Look at the next bar. Look at they hit it with 338 on the bottom. Okay, so this is why this version of the algo is being added and is very important. We hit with a seller of 338 contracts at the bottom, and everything else is green. Do you see that in here? Everything else is green. That's the opposite of what we got at the high on Friday afternoon. As a matter of fact, I'm going to zip forward and show you this really quick so everyone can see it. On Friday afternoon at 12 o'clock, see the 1678 on top, and everything else is red. Guys, these are fantasy setups. This is what we should be pounding and looking for all day long, because these are giving enormous reversals. So let's go back to that bar, right back into the low. Here we go. Where are we? No. There we go. Okay. Exact opposite. The only difference is the 1904 came to the left, and that'll be normal, because what you want to see is what you want to see at the bottom is you want to see him pound it with big size and then not be able to get any interest below. This is a perfect long setup, and if you'll notice, what you're targeting above is the zone and VWAP above. Notice on this long, even if you execute right on the top, and you had to grab it off the top here, there was no backside test, right? So if you grab 2659.75, your target is 5 above. That's going to bring you to 2664.75, and that is your winning trade right there. See that? Perfect. Down, in, up. No question about it. And as a matter of fact, you get a pretty good sell bar right out of that. Again, I don't like trading near VWAP, and this is a great lesson here. See this right here? See how the target should be the zone above. See that? And you'll notice that even though we get a pretty good algo setup here, this is where the perfect one comes in. Now notice how it's going to play through there. Look, they're going to test that whole zone and then roll all the way down. So this is important, and I want to mention this here. Guys, when we come into VWAP, even when we get perfect algo setups, right, your stops have to be wider around VWAP. And the reason for that is this. See the choppy action we're getting? Okay, even though it doesn't look like it's all that chop, so realize this is showing a very small time frame. These are 2 range bars. These are 5-minute bars, right? So this looks pretty straightforward. You're like, wow, rejected just like it's supposed to, should roll down, right? Well, what it does is ends up chopping you through, and you can see how if you got emotional about it, you can see how you would have thought like, oh, I'm going to get stopped. It's short. You know, it's very hard to make a clean decision around VWAP. It's easier to wait for stretches away from VWAP. That's where you get your cleaner entries for moves back towards VWAP, in my opinion, particularly on balanced days when that VWAP is inside that value area. Okay, so now watch how we go through the rest of the day. We come back down, right? So notice we don't have any location. We don't have location short or long. This has already done its job. If you look at this, right? For those who shorted the first time in with a stop 2 points behind, which means your stop would have been 71.50. That would have been your stop, would have been right up here. I'm going to draw a line there. Your stop would have been 71.50, a little bit higher, right there. That's your stop 2 points behind the zone. If you're trying to use the algo, you got chopped up there, which is normal. And you can see from the first touch of the backside of the zone at 67.50, you were able to achieve 63.75, 4 points out of the zone. So, I'm going to repeat. The algo helped us get what you'd refer to as close to perfect location at the bottom, right? We were stretched away. But even if you didn't use the algo, first touch of the zone provided your 2 and 4 points. First touch of the zone from above gave you 2 and 4 points. First touch from backside gave you 2 and 4 points through the course of the day. Starting to build a case. Trade location is very, very important. The algo is secondary. Now we're going to go through the rest of the afternoon, and what you'll see here, and I'm going to draw this out, okay, on this chart. It should magically appear. Okay. What we have here is a push down, an impulse move up, right? And now what am I looking for? I've gotten over my last, right? So guys, I'm just going through the normal process. I've gotten through above my last swing, right? So now the trade that I'm looking for, I'm inside value. And if I'm still bullish on the day, I can look for a 50, 60 back. By the way, you could have done the same thing from here, from off the open. Swing high, swing low, and you'll see the zone coming back up. This was the 62 retrace coming back. And here you can see we squeezed them right to the 62 retrace. Again, was choppy because we were on top of VWAP, right? But then we pull away from VWAP and we come back to the 62 retrace. So we can already see here that this trade works, right? We already know it. So let's go see, right? Because sometimes the 60, 50, 60 fails, sometimes it works. What did it look like via the algo, right? So you can see we had the exact same location drawn here, and that should be copying onto this chart, but I'm not sure it is. Let's see. It isn't, but we know we're in the exact same area. We have the time frames here, right? So notice as we're coming back into the 50-60, right? So this is the 38, this is the 50, and this is the 62. Notice they're pushing down. Look at the deltas as we're pushing into the 62 retrace. 301, right? 1299, 2049. We're starting to get our algo trigger for potential long side setup, right? And now look at this bar as we push in the 62 retrace. See how you had almost no sellers on? This is big delta, and then it's followed with a 35 delta. Look, all red on the bottom. They lifted all the offers on top, right? Now watch the resulting move. Back to the upside. Again, this is now the second touch of that yellow zone from underneath, right? A little bit of rejection. Back a second time for the 62 retrace, right? Again, time of day, New York lunch. And you'll see again, they push down this time with a, look at the deltas on the second push. There's no energy there whatsoever. They finally hit it with a 90 again. All the volumes on, if you look on this push down, all the volume comes in at the very bottom and they close up at the high. That's not what it looks like when a market falls apart. There you get your lift. Now here's where comes our superstar setup for the day from the video I just did. It looks great. Deltas are increasing. They're accelerating to the upside. Now remember what this is, guys, in the room over here. This is my first and second standard deviation away from VWAP. I'm looking for my key setups between this location and this location all day long. Preferably the best ones are outside, right? Outside of the second standard deviation, but between the first and second, if I get a good setup, it's good there, right? So this is where we push back down a little bit. Nothing there yet. But look at the 1678 that prints on top and all those sellers. So again, we pointed this out in real time. I posted the video late yesterday evening relative to where I'm posting this, which I'll post this tomorrow. And we then proceed. Now, if you look at this here, right? Look at this chart. Now what's going on with people? We've come all the way down. We've recovered over the 50-60, and people are getting extremely bullish here, right? I don't want to get sucked into the emotion. I want to read the chart. Again, we did this in real time. Oh, that's not a good sign. What happens next? We push right in, right back to VWAP, right? They're going to come back one more time for a 50-60 back to retest. So you see there's your 6 points down. Retest all the way back up towards the end of the day. and one more rejection. Notice we came right back into that 71, 71.50 and rolled all the way back to 67 once more, although it was the last part of the day. I'm not sure that I'd be that eager to trade that. And the funny thing about that is, if you look at it from this perspective, that was all chop. That was a great trade. And what would it look like on a 5-minute chart? There wasn't that much there. This was a fantastic location back to the downside, and then the 50-60 back here. I'll draw it back for y'all again, guys. 50-60 back, right? That's right there. If you look over here, it's now over here, right? Come down, 50-60 back, and you'll see that was the bar right there. We came in with all the buying, all the selling, and then they pushed down. Oh, wait, where are we? Right here, right? I apologize. We came back to the 50-60 back right here. There's your push into your 50-60. That's your push back down. This was your algo setup, but again, this makes a good point, right? See this setup here and this setup here? These bars are equally good, right? See this right here versus this right here? These bars from just a simple visual standpoint are equally good. Do you know what the difference is here? This bar is setting up. You only have a few points into VWAP. And so see, if you shorted it up here at 71 for 67, you were cool. But you had to guess that this is what you were going to get. There was nothing else that told you that. By the time you got this sell bar here, you just didn't, it was from 69 to 67 is all you had. You didn't want to short this. The reason this was so attractive is you had a big stretch back to VWAP to get you paid. Anyways, that's the trade review for the day, guys. So I'm going to go back. Trade location first, right? Secondly, stretch, and then algo setup, ideal algo setup, right? And then lastly, right, in that process, discipline, right? First touches of zones are the best touches of zones. 50-60s back, again, if the algo confirms the 50-60 back, fantastic. If not, leave it alone. And realize the algo is not going to always tag us in, but it sure is going to lead us to many, many, many sweet trades. So anyways, that's all I got, guys. Have a great night. I will see everyone on Monday morning. If you'd like to visit us in the room, send me an email to Trade and Perform, TRADEN, the letter N as in Nancy, perform @gmail.com. You can ask for a 5-day trial, and I'm more than happy to extend that to you. My name is Simon, and I run the Tough Trader Room, and I run Trade and Perform one-on-one coaching, helping traders improve their performance. And I love doing what I do. Primarily a trader, secondarily a coach, and I just love this business. So anyways, everyone have a great night. We'll talk to you all soon.